and welcome to the second series of Star Guitar. It's really good to be back. I was slightly bowled over by the response to the first run of episodes, and what started out as me making something that I wanted to listen to has reached a number of people far beyond my expectations. So I'd like to thank anyone who's listened, subscribed to the series, rated an episode, or got in touch to say that they've enjoyed it. Since I recorded the first series, I've bought some lovely new microphones, which will mean, in theory at least, that this series sounds better than the first. And I've got another great run of guests lined up, none more so than the guest for this first episode, Marika Hackman. She released her first EP in 2012, followed by a handful more, and toured pretty extensively with Laura Marling in the following years, who acted as a kind of mentor figure to Marika. We Slept at Last, her debut album, was released in 2015, which is a dark, sort of electro-folk inspired record, earning Marika rave reviews, but also a load of tags like kooky and quirky that didn't quite tell the whole story. For her second record, I'm Not Your Man, which came out in 2017, Marika switched to the electric guitar and called in her friends from the Big Moon to act as her backing band. The resulting record built on what she'd done before, developing her clever lyrics and gift for a surprising melody. She took an even bigger leap for last year's Any Human Friend, on which she added synths to the mix and addressed the breakdown of her serious relationship and sexuality with blunt, often hilarious lyrics. We cover all of this in the interview, which we did in Marika's front room before Christmas last year, and we go over everything from her days playing her brother's acoustic guitar and a collection of beautiful Fender Mustangs, to the lack of female guitar playing role models, and why she needs to get cracking on her next record. And I should say now, if you hear any odd rumbles during the interview, that it was Marika's stomach, which was on impressive form throughout. I took some wagon wheels with me, but they didn't do the trick. Anyway, here's the episode. I hope you like it.
Hi, I'm Marika Hackman and you're listening to Star Guitar.
I normally start by going back to the very beginning with people about where they started with a guitar, but since you've got your guitar next to you and it's all plugged in, can you talk us through it?
What, this particular guitar?
That particular one, yeah.
So this guitar is called Gert.
Gert?
Yeah.
Why Gert?
Just kind of stuck out to me. I mean, it was Gertrude, and now I call her Gert.
Nice. Named after anyone, or just looks like a Gertrude?
I think I actually named it on stage.
Okay.
At a gig at the Great Escape. It was the first show I played with this guitar, and I think someone might have even shouted it out from the crowd.
Oh, that's nice.
And it feels right. And she's a little 1967 Mustang in Daphne blue, but it's gone. What's amazing is it kind of looks quite seafoamy because the varnish is the bit that discolours. So underneath the blue is still pure and beautiful, but then the varnish goes yellow. So it's actually really green around the edges. And it's all original parts, but we did have to get it refretted, which was the only bit for touring, which is a shame. But
why that? I mean, I've seen you play like Mustangs before, but why that particular one?
Well, specifically this one. It was one of those things I just wanted one with a bit more character and a bit. The older with Mustangs they get, the tone just gets a lot richer, and a lot of the new Mustangs, I guess because they're smaller and the kind of pickups they use, they're quite tinny. Sounds a bit harsh, but they're very top-endy, and it's nice to find one that's got a bit more character in it and a bit more soul, and this is a really, really good one. So.
It's beautiful, and the colour, they like discolouring cases, don't they, over the years, and the chemicals react and stuff, so you wouldn't, apart from that bit that's worn on the bottom there, you wouldn't necessarily think it was Daphne blue. Yeah,
no, exactly. And it's in good nick as well. It's only got a few dents. I always worry that I did some of them, but I don't think I did.
It's all part of the story of the guitar, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got a big sticker on the back of the neck.
Yes, it says loser. It's a Sub Pop sticker. And I like putting stickers on guitars because you can take them off, you know. It's a nice way of making something feel a bit more personal without like affecting it. Sub Pop on my label out in America, and their Loser brand is quite a big thing, so I had this Loser sticker when I was out playing in Seattle, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to put it on the back of the neck because I can show it to my band but the crowd can't see. So yeah, that's why that's there.
Well, everyone knows it's there now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you play something for us?
That's quite scary.
Well, it doesn't have to be something of yours or whatever, if you just give us a run through the sounds on it. Well,
yeah, I'll try and think. I mean, stuff like, because when I first started playing this guitar, it was my second electric guitar. I had an Epiphone from the 60s as well I had before, but that had one pickup and is very, very basic. It's a, oh my God, I think it's an Olympic.
Okay, so like Like a cornet, but with only one pickup?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which actually, there's a story about that. It got stolen once. And I kind of got a picture of the guy on CCTV, and he sent it back in a cab the next day. I had a show the next day, and that guitar kind of was slightly cursed and went on quite a lot of adventures, but was good for what I needed at the beginning, which was something very simple.
I like that a thief has a conscience. Not enough of a conscience to stop him doing it, but enough of one to send it back.
Get it back, yeah. But then when I got this one, when I got Gert, I think I started really, rather than just playing how I'd always written stuff, on an acoustic guitar and just transferring that across onto the electric, I started to write more sort of riff heavy things. Mm-hmm. So kind of like, I remember the open wide riff, which I wrote on this guitar, which is, oops, no, it's not that. I haven't played it for about 2 years. So... Shit, I actually can't remember how to play that riff. That's really embarrassing. I should have prepared for this. Oh, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, we'll get it. That.
Wow, muscle memory is one hell of a thing.
I know,
isn't it?
right? So I haven't played that song for about 2 years, but yeah, so that kind of riff. And I remember, I mean, it is quite Nirvana-y, that riff. It's quite, it's got that kind of chromatic weirdness
it's
to
like
it.
the semitone thing in there.
Yeah, and I remember I was down at my parents' house in Devon, and my brother was kind of like walking past the door, and then he was like, "Oh, it sounds like Nirvana." But so I kind of started writing riffs for the first time, and this was when I must have been about 21.
Okay.
So it'd always been about the song. And I think something about an acoustic guitar always leads you to think about harmony and chords. And I didn't see myself as a guitarist per se. When I was learning on the acoustic, I saw myself as a songwriter that was using an instrument to facilitate that. And then with this guitar, moving on to a more electric sound, I started to experiment with what the guitar could actually do on a song, and that it didn't have to be the backbone for the entire thing holding it all together. And so I started writing riffs, and I think about those moments, like writing that open wide riff when I was 21 or whatever, and think about the record I've just made now, which is so riff heavy. It has guitar solos in it and stuff like that. And like now I'm at a point where I think, yes, I am a guitarist, but it's taken a hell of a long time and quite a strange protracted route to get there.
And that's a developing thing. It's not it wasn't like a moment where you're like, now I'm a guitarist.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a moment. There was kind of, I guess in a way it's an element of self-defense to be like, I'm not really a guitarist, because no one's going to judge you on that.
Like, oh, well, I didn't say I was any good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because I taught myself, so I started playing when I was 14. So it came after every other instrument that I'd already been learning and I'd been having lessons in.
So what, you playing drums and...
Drums and bass guitar and piano.
Okay.
But singing and playing the guitar was something that I was really private about. Maybe because I just really cared. But I would teach myself in my room and just play it all the time. And started to sing as well alongside that. So it was kind of, this very personal experience to me that didn't feel like it had the swagger, I guess, that I connected with being a kind of proper guitarist. And luckily now my ego has increased substantially and the swagger has finally hit, and I can take a guitar solo and it feels great. But it's been like very gradual, really kind of slow.
You can see the swagger on stage when you're playing, because it's always interesting. You see a lot of, say, solo artists who've got complex guitar parts on their record, and then as soon as they get a band in, they stand at the front just strumming, and the guitar player that they've brought in does all the fancy bits, basically. You don't seem to delegate in that way. Well,
when you write these parts, I certainly picture there's an element of, how is this going to come across live, and that attitude and everything, and they're really fun.
Yeah.
So I try to not be harsh on my guitarist. So I'll give him, I want him to have some fun playing with me. But ultimately, if there's a solo, I'm going to play it. Or if it's like my favourite riff, I'm going to play it, because it's the best feeling being up there and kind of playing it all live. And also I love the challenge of when you've got kind of vocal parts and guitar parts that are really kind of syncopated and strange, that shouldn't really fit together, trying to actually play them together and sing and play at the same time with a lot of that. It feels like it's a real brain workout in a really good way. I like a challenge, to try and master that.
Talking about the new record then, do you have a favourite guitar part on that record? A lot of the songs, The One, Blow, there's sort of very standout guitar moments on all of those.
Yeah.
Do you have an absolute favourite?
That is really hard because I do love a lot of those riffs. And I had one in my head just then, and then you mentioned those songs, and I was like, oh yeah, but those bits, which sounds like I'm being really arrogant, but I put a lot of time into this stuff, and it's nice. The Conventional Ride opening one, which was like one that I wrote in this house upstairs in my room, and it was really late at night as well, which was strange, but normally I worked a quite strict working day, but all my housemates were back and they were all asleep. I remember it was probably like midnight, and I just had my headphones on and had to kind of write it really quietly. But so the way I write guitar parts is very much I hear things and I have to work out how the hell to play them. And a lot of the time, I actually play them in quite kind of convoluted ways that other guitarists are like, you could just be playing it on like the A string in a different way. And I'm like, well, it doesn't sound the same.
When you say hear things, do you mean like you imagine a melody in your head?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of I like certain shapes on the guitar as well to make, which is, we can get into that in a minute.
Okay.
But you've got this like, sorry, I have just been playing this on tour, but yeah. Oops, sorry, fuck shit, man, I'm really showing off. I actually can play the guitar really well. It's just this high pressure. Okay, right.
High pressure.
High pressure. Like that.
Yeah.
Which is quite a weird. There's a lot of little finger doing a lot of work there. Also, you'll notice it takes me a long time to work out what notes I'm playing, what strings things are on, and I couldn't tell you what key anything is in.
This is why you don't delegate as well, because it's hard to explain what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've actually a lot of times I've had to work with bands and train people up in my band, and then take it to a whole. Like I've just been in America with a whole new band playing for me out there, and so teaching them the parts. A lot of the time I let people just get on with it the way that I see, like the way they want to play it. I'm kind of fine with that. I'm not going to be crazy about it as long as it's easiest for them and they feel comfortable. Like every guitarist has their own style, but sometimes there really is no other way of playing things. So I actually think that riff there never quite got mastered, but we just like I was playing it as well, so we could kind of like hide it. And that's fine because it's all it's all part of a live show. But they're just I think sometimes they're just a bit.
Well, that's a signature with the song as well, isn't it? So I guess it can't be different.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my favourite. I love the way it goes up and harmonises as well. I think it's so funny. Like a harmonised guitar just like makes me laugh, but also makes me incredibly satisfied every single time.
There's a moment on The One when it's sort of underneath the chorus.
Yeah, I think I know which one.
And it's like really, really like heavy processed guitar. Like,
yeah.
That where did that come from? Do you spend a long time when you're recording that record finding sounds?
Not particularly. The demos had really kind of like showed off where I wanted to go with the sound, and then when me and David were in the studio, he had some nice fancy pedals, and he's good at getting everything so it will fit and not get muddy and kind of like make it really clear. I can't remember what exactly the distortion was. I think it's the bit you're talking about, that like
yeah,
which is like
that
was going to be one of my other favourite moments. It's so kind of percussive, but it's got so much sass. But it's funny because it's not stealing the limelight. It's kind of sitting in there, just holding it all together. Again, it kind of just came out of nowhere when I was writing that. I don't really know. I kind of heard something and went with it and had a go. And I'd never really written a guitar part that was that kind of funky before. And that was one of the first songs I wrote for that record, for Only Human Friend. So after that, it kind of set the bar somewhere of funkiness that was like really exciting to play with a lot of the other riffs, like that blow riff as well, which is like that kind of oops, God, Jesus Christ, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, you get the picture.
Yeah.
Which actually took like a really long time, again, because I heard it and then I had to like teach myself it. And I remember taking it into the studio and kind of being like, oh God, and I've got to play these things. Because you can do it once on a demo and shove it in there and it's like, cool. And then you kind of get confronted with it again. And then you take it live again. And so for that bit, for instance, I'm singing over the top of that and I'm kind of, it's like a whole different beast. But yeah, it's funky.
I can't believe you do both things at the same time. It's a real skill. I mean, it's more than patting your head and rubbing your stomach or whatever.
It definitely is more, but it is in its essence the same thing, and it's something that I couldn't do 2.5-3 years ago.
Okay.
So my kind of the way I approach life and it's the same, you know, it's with the guitar as well. Like, you actually can, if you just try really hard and work really hard, you can do these things, but it's just quite dull to get to the point where you can. So, yeah, I kind of see it as, well, yeah, you know, I'm not going to give that riff to someone else. I want to play it. So it's like, okay, cool. I've just got to work out how to do this. And you kind of find a way, and then suddenly you'll be playing it 150 times, and then suddenly you'll get it, and that's it. Like, it's done. It's in your head.
And then 2 years later, you can't quite remember it.
And it's, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, and yeah, actually I haven't touched a guitar for about a week as well, so this feels quite strange. But yeah, no, I'm kind of, it's funny, the muscle memory thing though, because as much as it's, things kind of slide in and out, I don't think they ever disappear. You know,
No.
I can remember guitar parts that I wrote when I was like 17, 18 and stuff from kind of first EPs that I haven't played for, not like 2 years, I haven't played for sort of like 6 years, which is weird.
Other guitars then. Mustangs, very much your thing.
Yeah.
What I always have like thoughts about the connotations of different guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And you see somebody with a certain thing and you just think, you know, this, or what they're going to sound like, or how they're going to play maybe, or what influences they have. And whenever I see someone playing like a Duosonic or a Mustang, I always think, here's someone who is not too showy, because it's not a Strat, which is a bit more kind of flash, but maybe it's like a Slacker thing or a Surf thing, but it's something very laid back about it.
Yeah.
Why do you think you play Mustang so much? What is it that appeals to you?
First of all, I do like the way that they look.
Yeah.
I like the shape. I like the offset, but it's not too offset. Sometimes I think Jags look a bit crazy, like they're drunk. But like, it's also small, which is very, very useful when you have to stand around for an hour or so playing with it, or you're rehearsing all day. Like my back is ruined and my shoulders are ruined. But if I was playing anything like heavier or bigger, you know, it's like 10 times more ruined. So I like how small they are. Like, I like that I can get around it quickly. Like, nature is nature, and like I have smaller hands than most men, and I have a smaller build than most men, and it's kind of like it seems to fit much better to my body, because you want to feel like it's not like a part of you in a kind of cheesy way, but it should feel like an extension, not something that's kind of stuck on. And there's a lot of very, very big guitars out there. And another thing is, because Strats are great, they sound awesome. I suppose, in my head, I always, as a teenager, kind of associated them with more like Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of like vibes and John Mayer and stuff, and that's like not the kind of music I ever really wanted to play. And the curve at the top, really annoyingly, and it's something that I find with pretty much all acoustic guitars, but with like a Strat, that curve at the top, you get this weird sort of under boob thing that's actually just very like unpleasant. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel nice to kind of have your boob being like propped up. So that was a kind of like, I didn't want that. And Tellies as well. Tellies again, it's a similar kind of John Mayer, Steve Ray Vaughan. That is it's a different kind of. If they felt like really serious guitars for like serious guitarists, you know, all the musicians I've seen playing them they felt like guitarists. Yeah. When I saw someone, I don't know, like obviously classically Kurt Cobain slamming around on a Mustang or Jagstang or whatever, I wasn't looking at him and thinking, you're the best guitarist in the world. I was thinking like, whoa, what are these songs? Like, what are you doing with that thing? How are you like, and that was the kind of process that I went through learning the guitar. Like I said, you know, I was a songwriter, I was writing songs and I was using guitar to do that. I felt too intimidated by the whole thing, especially starting kind of what felt like a lot later than kind of all the people around me at school, to kind of get something like a Telly and feel like I was going to go and, I don't know, get all fancy.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. You know, somebody with a Mustang, you just think, I don't take this too seriously. It's, you know, it doesn't mean you can't play or anything, but it's like, I'm not going to be a dick about it.
Yeah, it's just like, it just feels like a guitar. It's just a guitar. You know, it doesn't feel like it's got any extra stuff to me. Like, and that's nice because you can kind of imprint your own personality on it and use it in whatever way that you want, which is cool. What was the first guitar that you got? First guitar I got was an acoustic guitar. It was a Takamine. Is it Takamine or Takamine?
don't. I say Takamine, but
Yeah,
I could be
Takamine.
wrong. So,
So yeah, we'll say
you know.
Takamine. It was a Takamine, little acoustic, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
So I will actually effectively, I had been learning at home. I would steal my brother's guitar because whilst I was learning the bass, he was learning the guitar. But we had a kind of one that my dad had got. I think one of his mates was throwing it away, and he gave him like a $5 or something. And so we had this. It's really bad. The action was like so high. That's actually what I started writing on and teaching myself on. So I think I got quite good grip because I had to press down so hard. And so then when I was 16, I got this Takamine. So actually suddenly, you know, oh my God, I don't have to press, like clench the neck to try and get a chord out of it, which was nice. And then after I got a record deal and management and all that stuff, they decided I should get a better acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And so I have my Gibson Blues King, which I use for all my acoustic stuff now. And then, you know, decided to make the move to electric pretty shortly after that as well. Well, I'd have both, you know, in a show.
Yeah.
And that's when I got the Epiphone. But yeah, there was that little Takamine at the beginning. Well, actually, yeah, preceded by that bizarre, strange one that we had.
And, I mean, I know you've played electric before, but like the big sort of transition was with the second record. With the first album, there was a big thing, you know, you see this quirky folk,
Yeah.
you know, tag and all those terrible words that people use. Like,
Kookie's the best one.
kooky, right.
Makes me wanna...
But kooky and people say chanteuse and all, you know, you hear all of those words bandied around, whether they're true or not. I don't know if they have much meaning anyway, really. But how much of the shift to playing with a band and sort of almost only playing electric was a reaction to that?
It was definitely a part of it. I don't think it was a main drive. I think I was kind of ready for that.
Yeah.
There's definitely a confidence element to kind of starting to work with a band, putting yourself as the leader of that as well, which I wouldn't have had the confidence at all before then. And even just making more noise, you know, being like having a noisier instrument, having to sing louder, it's all confidence based. So that I wouldn't have been able to do that earlier on. And it's definitely how I visualized myself as a musician when I was a kid. So it was kind of like I was always going to get to that point. And I did get really fed up after that first record came out with those kind of taglines that were being thrown around, because they felt totally incongruous with what I felt that I had created, and still do. It's so interesting, but it's funny because they last forever. I put out that second album, and Boyfriend was called a folk rock anthem.
Really?
Yeah, and then even with the last one, there's been some folk thrown in, sort of folk pop rock, but it's absolutely bizarre. It's so strange, but people just will always go back and look at that and go for that, and it's so frustrating, but you have to just get on with what you're going to do. So it was a big factor, but it wasn't the be all and end all. I didn't sit there and go, I'm like I'm fed up, I'm going to like get the Big Moon to come and make a record with me and kind of start writing grungy tunes and all that kind of stuff. That'd
be quite a drastic reaction, wouldn't it?
A little OTT. Yeah. So yeah, I was ready for it. Basically, I knew that's where I wanted to go, and quite frankly, like when I sit down and write songs, I'm not actually even thinking about anything like that. I just see what comes out and then kind of take that as a lead of where I'm going to go with it. I think Violet was the first song I wrote for that album. I was like, cool. Was
that stuff in you already, do you think, that just needed time to like gestate and you to get good enough to do it as well? Because it's not, you know, you can't just make a record like that, I guess.
Yeah.
You need to do stuff before it to lead up to it. But was it always there?
I think so, definitely. You can hear bits of it on that first album, like Open Wide. Was, you know, that's a kind of grungy, moody song that was kind of definitely a precursor to what was coming next. And that even on some of those early EPs, I listen back and it's like it's just the treatment of the songs, really. Some of them could have been like big sort of grunge rocky anthems, like Cinnamon or something like that. You know, that like they could be those things. I was just stretching my sort of creative production songwriting muscles and kind of working out where I wanted to fit in it all, which was a really amazing sort of enlightening experience. And putting out all the EPs and all of these profoundly different records that I've put out, it's really nice to know that I don't think you do have to settle. I don't think you have to be like, this is who I am, this is my sound, and people are buying into that. I think people, in my opinion, I want them to buy into me as a songwriter, not as a soundsmith, you know. So if I'm writing songs that people connect with and that people like that should be the through line. that glues everything together, as well as the fact that I have a singing voice that's slightly unique in some ways, that you can kind of sit atop everything and almost hold it together as well. And, you know, there's always the slightly strange little guitar bits that go in there. You know, there's the little chromatic things and the shifting from the major to the minor that I would say are quite like signature things to my sound. But as far as I see it, I want to just push everything as far as I can in whatever direction feels comfortable at the time.
I guess if you need proof that that's working, you've been picking up more fans as you've gone is absolute proof that that's the case, you know, that it's not one sound that people were after. Because the growth has been, you know, almost like, it feels, certainly from the outside anyway, like it's been a straight line from the first record, like trajectory. Yeah,
it's been good. You never know though. The next one could be the undoing of it all. The death metal record that I'm writing currently. You know, sometimes I wonder.
Are you just taking blues solos and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. It's just sort of like 15-minute solos.
Yeah. After the, you said you got that Epiphone. I've seen you playing a few different Mustangs. How many have you got?
So hang on, so the one I use now predominantly for live is called Peanut. It's one of the newer ones, and it's got P90 pickups in it. So it's
Sunburst one.
Yeah, and it just breaks up quicker, so it kind of gives a bit more shreddiness, I suppose, to the sound. And it's because I go through a deluxe reverb amp as well, Fender, and you have to whack them up to like 6 before you can get them to do anything that's going to be that breaking up and that warmth, because they're just so loud. And I have to keep at about 3 so we don't blast our ears off. So it's good to have something with pickups that are a bit more responsive. So that's like my main one. I've got Pig, which is a little pink one, which I use as a backup.
All named,
yeah. And then I've got a kind of another like blue shiny one that I got really recently, called Yo, out after my housemate, because she screams a lot. She's called Yo, which is not, she's called Joey, but yeah. So Yo, I've got I think I have 4 Mustangs basically. Is what I'm trying to say. I have 4 Mustangs, and I've still got my Epiphone as well. But that's it in terms of electric guitars. I haven't got. Oh no, who am I kidding? I've got a Jazzmaster. Sorry, that was so mean. It's just over there as well. I feel really bad. That one's not even named.
Wow. So you forgot it and it's not named.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a tricky one because I don't use it live so much because it's heavy, but it's really good for writing. It's a bit more versatile. Like it's got more stuff going on in terms of pickups and things like that. So it's kind of fun when I'm making demos and things like that to play around with sounds a bit more.
Is it an old one?
No.
Okay.
It's a newbie. Yeah, the only old ones are Gert and the Epiphone.
Do you have any dream guitars that you would definitely like to own, or you kind of done?
I think I'm kind of done. I like old acoustics. There's one over there behind you. That's a 1952 Gibson, which is a lovely guitar. Quite unique though, and I think a lot of like snobby guitarists might play it and be like, "Oh, the tone it's not very deep" and all that kind of stuff. But it's got real character and it resonates in a really unique way. And I used to do a lot of the kind of different tuning acoustic stuff, like Before I Sleep and Let Me In on that guitar, and it kind of would create this like shimmer that I'd never heard a guitar do before. So I really like it.
Could you play it?
Yeah, I can play it.
Thanks.
Well, we'll see. Again, it's been about 4,000 years. Let's see. I feel like I need to tune it. I mean, like it's got quite a kind of like plucky. So like. It's kind of to be fair, the strings are about 3,000 years old, but
it sounds great.
Yeah, but it's kind of distinctive. It's not got that super rich like. Well, it is warm. It's just warm in a different way.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like and it sounds old. I mean, it sounds like you could kind of hear it being kind of played around in sort of some parlor in like the 50s or something. But like, it doesn't feel like it's got a big hollow body that's kind of got this like depth to it.
Yeah.
But it's weird, yeah, it kind of has something that resonates in a really good way that's kind of...
Where did you get it?
There's a guitar shop in Shoreditch. I used to live around the corner. They've changed their name, but they've got really good guitars in there. I think it's the only one in Shoreditch. So.
Right.
But yeah, and I actually went in, and basically I was looking at it, and then I think because I was looking at it, this other guy was like hovering around. And so I was like, oh God, I don't know if I should be splashing out on this. And it was just after my first album came out, which also coincidentally kind of came out on my birthday. So I was like, but I could have like a first album birthday present to myself. And this guy was like standing there, and then I knew the people in the shop because I used to go in there quite a lot. And then they were just like, by the way, if you leave and put that guitar down, that man's going to buy it. Which they were probably just having me on. But he was really hovering. He was like watching me playing it and standing next to me.
Do you reckon they pay him a day rate to sort of harry people into buying things?
You know what? I'd never thought of that before, but now telling this story, I think I might have been had. But anyway, yeah, so I rang up my housemate and was like, can you do me a solid and like lend me half the deposit for this guitar right now? And then I bought it. And she did, very kindly.
That's nice.
And yeah, and I got it. And it's just really... I love it. I love it for like... I find whenever I get a new instrument, especially if it feels like it's got a bit of something else to it, it's kind of unique in a way, I always end up writing a song, like straight away.
It's so common that people that you speak to and they get a guitar and the first thing they do is write quite a significant song on it because something about it just changes the way they play, or something sounds really good on it that gets them to do something new. How precious are you about your guitars?
What, as in keeping them safe and happy?
Yeah.
Not very. Like, yes, I am. I'd be devastated if any of the like vintage ones had anything happen to them, because that feels irreplaceable in certain ways, and especially one like Gert, because I've written so many songs on that guitar. I've toured so much with that guitar, and it was like the first kind of electric that I properly worked with. So that like sentimental value is quite heavy. If that got lost, I'd be pretty upset. But I've lost guitars before. I lost a Jaguar at the airport. Someone nicked it off the belt, and it's kind of like you just have to get on with it. And I'm not super fussy about keeping them all at perfect temperatures and things like that all the time, and kind of shining them up. And I like take them to get set up every now and then, and kind of a little service or whatever. But they're built to last. Hence why I've got these two, right here with me. So yeah, I'm not super fussy.
God, that's nearly 70 years old, that one, and it's still in pretty good nick.
Yeah,
I can't believe somebody would steal a guitar off an airport belt.
Yeah, it was so rubbish. We'd been stuck in Madrid airport for 15 hours as well because of a tiny bit of snow. It was so bad, and we just forgot that we had to recheck in all of our gear. We were obviously coming back from playing a gig, and there were two guitars which were in sort of the more lightweight new like plastic Fender cases, and those two just got nabbed. And then we had, I think Gert was there, but in like a proper flight case, which was moved halfway across the room, so they'd obviously tried and failed.
What a sad story.
I know, it was very intense. And then we got home and my laptop had been stolen from my house. We'd had a break-in, and that had all of my work for the last album on it, which was not backed up. So that was really bad. It was a bad couple of days. Just going to say that now.
So you're all the stuff, like demos for your most recent record?
Yeah. So for instance, like the One and Han Solo, I didn't actually have stems coming into the final recording process for that, for all of the like vocal samples and things. I had to redo them all because those demos were stolen.
How much of it would you have used?
Those two were done, and I did end up using them because I could remember how they went, which was good. There was a lot of other stuff that probably wouldn't have ended up on there, but I tend to work in a way where I have a lot of ideas that I record. So rather than feeling like you're working straight away on a blank page, coming back into making a record, I can kind of open those up and they spark something off, or I can actually turn them into songs eventually. But it's like this kind of bed of like, there were probably about like 30 or 40 different kind of beginnings of songs and ideas that had never turned into anything, but it was just a good place to start without feeling incredibly intimidated.
Wow. Which guitarists were you kind of looking to, Danny? I mean, you mentioned Kurt Cobain already. When you were learning, who was a big sort of figure for you?
I don't think that anyone who I would deem was like a guitarist, I don't think I was very aware of people playing the guitar per se. You know, it was like songwriters and listening to the full thing. I've never been one to kind of really enjoy watching someone wigging out.
Yeah.
Everything has to have a purpose and a place. It's like that's not to like any people doing that. That's an incredible talent, and obviously lots of people love that stuff. It's just not for me. And the way that I write music, like I don't take a solo and improvise. I write everything down to the last thing, and it's I can't improvise. I don't know how to play the guitar well enough. I don't have an understanding of the instrument in terms of scales and everything like that. But what I can do is hear a melody in my head and work out how to play it and play it right every single time. Mm-hmm. Not that I've displayed that today particularly, but
we believe you.
yeah, just trust. But so I'm very meticulous in that way. So when I was a kid and I was sort of wanting to play the guitar, I would always look at drummers more. I was like obsessed with John Bonham. Like I did kind of guitarists. I felt like were a bit self-indulgent, and I was always just looking at songwriters. So even when I was talking about Kurt Cobain, it was like, as a songwriter, as a band, how is this sounding and what's happening? I don't want to pick out something and isolate it because it should all be kind of gelled together to make something. There goes my stomach. Make something really work. And I think coming into playing the guitar myself, my biggest inspiration was Laura Veers, and I felt a very deep connection with her music to the extent that I almost couldn't listen to it for a while because it made me feel so sort of filled with ennui and kind of that strange homesickness that you can't really place. But it hit a nerve, and I was like, that's such a powerful thing. That's what I want to do. And her guitar parts are simple. She's not like showing off. She's using them to write songs and to kind of express whatever needs to be expressed within the confines of what makes a good song. So that to me was my biggest inspiration, I think, in my career up to this point, because I was like, I think I can do that. If I watched some dude like shredding out in the front of a stage with like thousands of screaming people in front of them, in my head I was like, well, first of all, like that doesn't really look or feel like me, and second of all, like that looks really hard, and I couldn't do that. Whereas the thought of just writing a song and keeping it simple, but just taking it from where it is and seeing where it goes, that was like, oh, maybe I could have a go. So I did, and I started writing music, and I started writing music which was playing the guitar. That was the same thing for me. It was all part of the same thing, and then kind of everything else came later.
Hungry, Marika?
A little bit hungry. Oh my gosh, this is all over my records, by the way. If you would strip back the vocal, it's just my stomach rumbling. It's so loud. At school was the worst. Any lessons before lunch? So bad.
Is songwriting at the moment something you're thinking about? I mean, so sort of relatively close to a record coming out and sort of tour cycle.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about writing?
Yes. Yeah. I'm on the writing thought process. Maybe not the active writing part. Coming back off a tour is always quite a hotbed of songwriting activity, though. And I know it's going to strike soon. I just need to like chill for a bit. But I get kind of, I don't know, a bit like itchy, I can't write on tours. There's no privacy, there's no time. I'm still at a level of touring where you're sitting in a van all day and you load in, you go to a hotel and you do exactly the same thing the next day. Like it's just relentless, and so there's no time. I can't do it, but that's fine because it means that my brain sort of resets and everything trickles back down again. And then I get home and I have a couple of weeks of just like sleeping and thinking, oh, I should probably start trying to write a song, and then suddenly one will just come out and then it's done. It's kind of like it opens the door again.
Right, okay.
Because definitely when you're writing songs and you're in the cycle of writing, like they get better and better and better, and it gets easier and easier and easier, and it's like a snowball effect. Trouble is, by the end of writing a record, I'm usually like absolutely exhausted, and like my sort of anxious side and my slightly more depressive side are like heightened times 100, and it's like you can push that stuff, you can keep digging, you can keep going, but ultimately like you need to shut it at some point and just reset and then start it again.
So it's not necessarily cathartic, it's
No.
It's sort of the opposite.
It's like both. It's nice to take something out of your head and like put it into kind of almost like an object form. It becomes something separate that's like split from you, that's not this kind of whirlwind. But I think even just the process of like pulling that out,
yeah,
it's like you're quite liable to kind of pull that and then have a kind of chain effect of pulling 100 other things over in your brain, sort of like a very dodgy way to move where they pull the tablecloth off.
Yeah.
And everything just comes crashing to the floor.
Thematically on the record, a lot more kind of honest and open, and you know, the things that you're singing about that you've not addressed before. You've got a song about wanking and stuff. You know? So I wonder how much opening the floodgates, though, like personally, if it's had any impact on your guitar playing. Yeah,
I think it's kind of made it. I think, well, like I was saying earlier, confidence is the key, and you have to be confident if you're going to write lyrics like that. You have to be very confident in what you're saying. It's bold, it's scary, but you have to like go with it, and that's the same. It's the same feeling to me as kind of writing a slamming guitar riff. You're putting it out somewhere where you can't hide behind it.
Do you think those lyrics could go with a song that was just you and an acoustic guitar, or is that too bare? Is it maybe a bit easier to get these things across when there's more noise going on in the background?
Which there's a lot of noise going on in the background right now. In my stomach. I think you can. Those kind of lyrics can exist wherever, and I've done stripped back versions actually a lot of these songs, and it heightens the lyrics definitely. Yeah. Like saying something like "All you fuckers want my dick," like over an acoustic guitar, sung quite sweetly, which is kind of one of the only ways I know how. It's like, but it makes it actually elevates the humour of it, and it elevates the shock factor, which I do really love. But it's also really fun to write music that's like upbeat and weird and all over the place and loud. Like I find it really enjoyable. But I think, you strip a song back, I would say that like actually weirdly one of the biggest kind of hints to where Any Human Friend was going from I'm Not Your Man would be I'd Rather Be With Them. And that's because those lyrics are really just direct, and that's a really sad song. It's really raw, it's really open, it's just over an acoustic guitar. But that directness, I think, is like the main bit, and that's kind of where I went with Any Human Friend.
I saw you do that on a session for something, and like a radio session, so you had to change the lyrics. Was it all you want my hips?
No, all you mothers want my hits.
Oh, all you mothers want my hits.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to think of an alternative version?
I think I had some ideas, and then I went in with David because we had to then do the re-records of the clean versions, and had some fun with it. I think he found All You Mothers Want My Hits particularly funny. I mean, it's frustrating in a way, but it's kind of, again, it's quite a nice way to work around something. The trouble with the one is that literally the main note in the chorus that the vocal line hits is the word fuck. So it's like you could beep it out, but then you actually effectively lose the entire song. Cause sometimes I'd rather just beep it out because I think it's kind of, again, quite funny. Like I remember listening to like Eminem and stuff when I was a kid and having stuff beeped out on the radio, and it's like I want to do that, but actually I'd lose too much.
What comes next for you then? A bit of time off, and then you've got another tour.
More touring of the UK at the end of February into sort of March, and then it'll be festivals, and I should really be starting to string together an album. Yeah, really behind the scenes. At least certainly get maybe like half of it done, because if I can write half of it soon, then coming into sort of the end of next year when I can really have the time to focus on it, it's a lot less scary.
I guess it'll be August really, won't it, by the time you get any time to yourself properly?
Yeah, August, September probably.
Yeah.
The festival season is so long now. But yeah, because then, I'm looking at the year after I'll be recording it, so we've got to kind of crack on.
You obviously made the second record with The Big Moon.
Yeah.
I wondered what that did for your guitar playing, because you got, I suppose being on your own, you don't get to hang out with that or play with that many other guitarists, but then you've got sort of two or three there.
Yeah. Quite the hair metal band.
Yeah.
Three guitars across the front. Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. That whole experience, actually, because obviously I was still sort of arranging everything and writing everything on my own at home, because I'm just a control freak, and that's how I always work. And I'm very private and probably just quite nervous, really. So it was interesting bringing that into the group and then seeing, again, that thing of I want to let guitarists play how they're going to play. Like, I'm not going to kind of be militant about it. And yeah, I mean, Jules and Soph are fantastic guitarists, and it was great to see what they were doing and kind of like learn stuff off of them and be kind of involved in a group. It's really lonely being a solo artist. Like, it really does suck. And the record I've just made, I spent a whole year alone in my room writing it, and then went and it was just me and David predominantly making the whole thing. So it's very insular, and it was nice to actually kind of like do the writing, but then kind of open it up. And we certainly had a lot of fun in the studio when we made I'm Not Your Man. It was, I mean, because they're all a bunch of my mates as well. So
Yeah.
it was like, I was really nervous, but also that's great. I think it's good to be nervous.
Can you play something else for us?
Yeah, I can play whatever you want. Any particular... What's your favourite riff on it?
I like stuff off I'm Not Where You Are, I think. There's some guitar parts on there that I really like.
Yeah, weirdly with I'm Not Where You Are, that was a song that I wrote and was like... I actually remember texting this girl I was dating at the time and was like, I think I've just either written like one of the most catchy, best songs I've ever written, or the worst song in the world.
Fine line.
It is a fine line, and I had to actually sit with it, and then eventually I was like, no, this is actually just pretty catchy. I set myself the challenge to limit myself to only doing 4 chords for the entire song.
Okay.
That's how I wrote that song. So you've obviously got that main, like... Which is actually, that's... I don't know what chord that is, but I like it. That.
Yeah.
Rather than a... It's like... Just keeps it a bit more fruity. And then that, like... Which is that main riff.
That's amazing. Can you do that again? It's brilliant. It's really good.
Which is that I have to sing the chorus over that one.
Why did you think that was cheesy?
I don't know. I just thought it was all a bit simple. I've realised more and more, the longer I've had in my career, that simple isn't bad. Like, simple's a good thing. I was so anti-simple when I first started. I was like, everything has to be weird, and we'll put it in some strange time signature, and there'll be an extra half a bar here, and she's gone to the minor. Like, whoa, weird. And now I'm like, actually, it's quite nice to listen to stuff that you slightly know where it's going to go, and you can play around with that. And even in that song, I mean, like the second chorus, it goes somewhere completely different, which you didn't expect. But yeah, it's... I was just worried that it was too simple, but it's not.
No, it's great.
And then there's the, like... like all that stuff. There's obviously a simpler way of playing that as well, like all these, like... But I kind of... Something about the way things slide. It's like the Boyfriend riff. Everyone else who I've taught that song to, they play that riff completely differently and much easier. But it's that slide up at 5 frets.
It's the voicings, isn't it? It's different. Yeah.
It just gives it like something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another one that I always find really interesting is because like Blah Blah Blah, which is I really love playing live, and I normally take the top octave on the like. But I had to take the intonation on this is pretty screwy. I had to take the bottom half recently because the other person couldn't play it, which was totally fair enough because I realised I can barely play it, Kelsey Breeze, but it's like it is so weird. Look, it's like, but then now. Like that, basically, my hand just turned into like that is just the strangest stretch. Then up to that and then down, but you kind of you just got to do it.
I'm not surprised you couldn't show that to somebody. It looks painful.
Yeah, and it's again, I had to. I was like singing over that and if my hands were the tiniest bit too sweaty, it was just the whole thing was just lost. I had to go back up to the octave and start.
Wow.
Messing around.
Do you have many female guitar heroes? This is something that. Obviously, in the course of doing this podcast, I've been thinking a great deal about sort of guitarists that I like and admire. And,
yeah.
There's such a dearth of female guitarists that have not out there, but have kind of broken through and have a kind of a status to the point where they would become a role model or a icon for people. That's
the thing. I didn't have any female guitar role models. I'm sure they were out there, but I didn't have any. So I don't have any that were like my guitar heroes in any sense. I guess like the closest I was going to get to that was like songwritery stuff, and that's like more like Laura Viz and like Joni Mitchell, obviously like fantastic guitarist, amazing voice, but like they're not guitar heroes. That's not like how I view them in my head. Now, if I was a kid, now I'd probably look at someone like Anna Calvi and be like, whoa, because obviously she's insanely good at the guitar.
Wails.
Yeah. Or even just like Soph from the Big Moon and her band Argyle. When I go and watch them play shows, I'm just like blown away, and it's inspiring. I know a lot of women that play the guitar really, really well. My ex Amber, she's from the Japanese House. She's fantastic at the guitar. She plays it all upside down and completely wrong, all the strings in the wrong place and everything. And it's just like everyone's got their own style, and that's actually something I've really noticed with women who play guitar. The style is always much more pronounced and unique, and I think that's because a lot of us didn't necessarily learn the classic way, where you learn all the different scales and you learn how things go together and you're copying. Sort of like it's you have to forge your own path through, because it's probably more unlikely that you were learning at school, like when all the boys were learning. Because I mean, hearing a scale is really dull, so it's kind of pointless to learn them anyway. You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of any soloing that's born out of like playing a blues scale over the same chords going around that everyone's heard a million times. Like that doesn't interest me whatsoever, and it's very dull. But also weirdly, I was having a conversation with a magazine the other day about like queer women, kind of who play music, and how she had asked everyone, you know, who did they kind of feel like they wanted to be when they were going to get older and be making music, and apparently everyone said Kurt Cobain.
Right.
No one said a woman, and yeah, like it was always Kurt Cobain. I think a couple more maybe said other guys, but it's funny, like, and I say Kurt Cobain because I felt like, I guess he has something he's not playing like that overtly masculine show off guitar. There's something very sensitive there.
Yeah.
And also he has like a feminine energy, but that was like the closest we could get, you know, to having like a female role model doing what we saw ourselves doing, which is crazy.
And there we have the first episode of Star Guitar with Marika Hackman. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard of Marika's music, then obviously go and listen to her records, or even better, buy them. And she's touring the UK from February the 24th, beginning in Manchester Gorilla, if you would like to go and see her live. She's also got a load of festival dates announced, so check out her website, marikahackman.com, for more information on that. As for Star Guitar, please subscribe if you haven't already, or even better, leave a review wherever you get your podcasts from. You can follow on Instagram, where you can see pictures of all the guitars we talk about, which is at Star Guitar Podcast, or follow on Twitter, which is at Star Guitar Pod. If you've got any comments, you can email me at starguitarpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks as always to Liam Frost for the intro music. You can go back and listen to the episode that he featured in from the first series, along with all the other guests. I'll be back with another episode next week, where my guest will be Ben Watts, brilliant guitar player, solo artist extraordinaire, and formerly one half of Everything But the Girl. It's a really special episode. Until then, bye-bye.